Okay, well, we've just had a useful meeting with the Tánaiste Eamonn Gilmore. It was a working meeting. We looked at the challenges and the opportunities, and I have to say that Sinn Féin believes that there is now an opportunity to sort out some of these outstanding matters. We would have liked to have been sorted out long before this, and we don't underestimate the difficulties, but we now have a window of opportunity, and led by Martin McGuinness here, our folks will endeavour to work with the other parties here to bring all of these matters to resolution. We've also separately agreed to meet with the British Prime Minister and with the Taoiseach, and as soon as that can be arranged, that will proceed.
How realistic is it that these talks can achieve progress, given that you weren't able to broker an agreement with the help of Richard Haas?
Well, that's the challenge. The challenge is whether or not there is enough goodwill to face up to the challenges that arise from the inability to put together a comprehensive agreement to deal with the past parades and the whole issue of flags, symbols and identity. And we entered the Haas talks. Obviously we had our own position on those three matters. We actually compromised during the course of the Haas talks, and that wasn't enough to bring it over the line. So here we're faced into a position as a result of the party leaders meeting last week, where we've agreed that there will now be an intensive period of talks in what is clearly a very limited window of opportunity up until, I suppose, the first couple of days of July. And we enter that with the same spirit as we entered the Haas talks, absolutely determined to find a way forward to get an agreement around these three vexed issues. I think it's also important to say that the two governments need to be much more engaged in this process. I spoke by telephone to David Cameron just a few days ago, and all of you know I've been very critical of the fact that since he became Prime Minister, which is now a period of 4 years, he has never had a direct engagement with the Sinn Féin leadership. He has now agreed that that meeting will take place, and as Gerry has said, we will also be meeting with the Taoiseach in the course of the next short while. So it's absolutely vital that everybody, including all of the political parties and the governments, are absolutely committed and dedicated to finding a way forward in this window of opportunity.
The type of difference in the attitude of the unionist parties, I mean, after the Haas process they were fairly downbeat. There's not much evidence out here that anything's changed.
Well, I think that that's the challenge. I mean, the other parties, like ourselves, have been meeting with the governments. In fact, I was very critical in the telephone conversation that I had with David Cameron that private meetings were taking place with the DUP to the disadvantage of others. And I think what we need to see is, as a result of what is an agreement between the parties, to have a period of intensive discussions. We enter that with the spirit of trying to get an outcome. If others are entering it with the spirit of trying to frustrate an outcome, then it'll obviously go nowhere. So I'm not saying that that'll be their motivation. I'm coming at this with a good heart. We want it to work, and we hope that others will employ the same motivation to what are absolutely crucial negotiations to find a way forward on what are very serious issues.
Is it just in relation to the issues that were unresolved after the Haas negotiations, or will other matters be added to the agenda?
Well, all the outstanding issues have to be dealt with. Whether they all are dealt with or not is a matter for the negotiators. But certainly there's a need for a spirit here that's missing at the moment, and it's that positivity that Martin spoke about. So we will go into these talks positive as problem solvers, trying to find a resolution, and why we wouldn't underestimate the challenges. The fact is all of these issues can be resolved.
And if welfare reform is put on the agenda, where do you stand on that?
Well, you know our position on that, and we've spelled it out to both governments and to the other parties. But all of these issues, we're not going to negotiate these issues out in public. All of these issues need to be sorted out to the benefit of the people who live in this part of the island and throughout the island.
And I think it's also very important that people in London and government in London, and these guys are multi-millionaires, get their heads around what the guy from Oxfam said this morning on Good Morning Ulster, that more and more people are being plunged into poverty as a result of the welfare cuts that are happening in England. And as far as we're concerned, when we battle on the issue of welfare cuts, we're not just battling for people in Coal Island or Crossmaglen. It's for people in Ballybean and the lower Newton Ards Road and in Ballymena that we're fighting for, not just for the people who vote for us, but for everybody who are going to be affected, some of the most marginalised, disadvantaged and disabled within our society.
How will you respond, by the way, if the Northern Ireland Affairs Committee attempts to compel you to appear before them?
Well, let's cross that bridge when we come to it.